podcaster throughout the world from Canada. This is the Collector Car Drive-Thru Podcast, presented by Cars by Taylor. Here are your hosts, Nicole Taylor and Paul Taylor Sr.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Collector Car Drive-Thru Podcast. Today we have Glenn Bodden. He's from New Brunswick, and I'm really excited to be able to interview him today. First off, look at our new cameras.
Cool, huh?
I mean, we are moving up, my friends.
On up. We're just falcon around, as he would say.
Oh,
I made a joke.
Which, if you don't understand it, you will in a few minutes. Soon. So looking forward to hearing all of his stories, some of the amazing projects that he has built and been partnership with. So tune in, and we look forward to seeing Glenn and all his amazingness.
I can't wait. Good morning, everybody. We are with Glenn Bodden. Glenn, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm excited to have you today here, sir.
Good morning. Good morning to both of you.
Hi, Glenn.
How you doing?
Good, great. Cold.
What's the weather?
Great.
Yeah, exactly.
We got lots of snow out here in New Brunswick, but it's starting to thaw, and we'll see spring in a couple of weeks. So
that's awesome. So I was so excited to get you on. And I'll be honest with you, we have some friends in common. So right away, I said to Paul, we so need Glenn to come onto the show. So thank you so much for deciding to join us today. And I was hoping that you could tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, I know a little bit about yourself. I know that you're very well known in the Ontario and other areas, but I would really like you to share some history about your time in the automotive industry.
Well, I've always been interested in cars since I was very young. I started out racing motorcycles and snowmobiles, and the day I turned 16, I got my license. Started driving cars, and the best I could customize was what you could buy a Canadian Tire. Until one day when I was 20 years old, I was walking down the street and I saw a 33 Ford that was the most beautiful car I've ever seen in my life. And it was owned by a gentleman called Bob Smurl. And I was standing with my toes at the edge of the sidewalk trying to look at the car. And he said, "What are you looking at, boy?" And I said, "I'm looking at the car." He said, "Well, Jesus Christ, you can't see the car from there. Come on up the driveway." So I went up and looked at the car. He invited me into the garage. He said, "Do you know anything about cars?" And I go, "No, I don't know anything." So after that, he took me under his wing and started to teach me. Started with sandblasting parts and then brazing, because back in the day we didn't have. So brazing, stick welding, moving on to body work and filler and paint and electrical and motor. And from that time, from the knowledge that he gave me, I started building cars. Some of them were pretty marginal in the beginning, but I built some pretty nice stuff over the years. And I've always tried to build different stuff. I don't want to build cookie cutter. I don't want to build what everybody else builds. Yeah. So I've always tried to look at a car and take it in a different direction than anybody else has.
And that's evident.
Yeah, no doubt. It's most definitely evident. And you know what, kind of leading us in. So you know what, let's go into it then. So tell us what the instigator is. So anybody that doesn't know you, hasn't been around your social media or anything like that, what's the instigator?
The instigator is a 1962 Comet. I had just finished a 31 Ford sedan that I had cut into a bobber pickup truck, and I had it parked out in the front driveway. And a guy drove by and he saw the truck and he goes, "Oh my God," he stopped. My wife and I were actually having a coffee, and she had just gone in to make me another coffee. And a guy comes up and he goes, "Oh my God," he said, "I love this truck." And I said, "Oh." And he said, "Can I buy it? Is it for sale?" I said, "Everything's for sale." So he shot a number and I went, "Sold." So he came up and he gave me $1,000 right there, cash. And he says, "I'll come pick it up tomorrow." And he got in his car and just left. My wife came out with the coffee. And she said, "Who's that driving away?" And I said, "The guy that owns the truck." And she goes, "Get out of here. You sold a truck." And I showed her the $1,000.
Right.
So later in the day, a buddy of mine came along and I said, "Well, shit, I just sold a truck. I'm going to need another car to build." And he said, "Well, geez, there's not one too far from here." So I jumped in the car and went. And sure enough, it was a 62 Comet that he had in his garage. But he had started to go as a resto mod. You know, it was low and He had put a Mustang 2 front clip and 4-link, and it wasn't a direct. When I saw the car, I knew exactly what I wanted it to be, and that was not it. Right. So I made a deal for just the body. Okay. I cut the whole front end off. I cut the rear end off. I gave it all back to him because the deal was just the body.
Right.
Well, it turns out that the body was worked on by a buddy of mine, Paul Dennison from Heavy Metal Studios. And he had done a lot of work to the car. He put rear trunk and part of the floor, and he had changed the sail panels, and he'd done a lot of work to it. Well, I took the car and then I did it my way. I built it into a gasser. So I put a full steel frame, retro roll cage, a 1960 hoop style roll cage, straight axle in the front end, poured 9-inch, tilt front end. I just went at it. Paul Dennison is an excellent fabricator, but he's also a painter. So Paul came over and we talked about paint, and I said, I want a period correct 60s drag gasser paint job on this. So he'd worked up some schedule. He painted some garbage cans with some different stuff. And I said, that's it. So he came over to my shop, and we started painting, and 145 hours later, and 40 rolls of tape, and $4,000 worth of paint. And
some people just don't understand the passion and the drive that it takes, you know, and it's something in the restoration world that, I mean, even with customers, and I'm sure that you've seen this as well, most will come into the shop or you know, and not understand what's really needed for a full project, you know, and so all of the supplies, the time. So that's so amazing. Like
the consumables alone.
Well, the dedication that it took for you guys just for the paint, if you think about it, you know.
The paint job was evaluated after by the insurance company in excess of $20,000.
Holy smokes.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, it was quite the paint job. So I just got the car finished. I mean, it had a crack in the windshield. I had ordered another windshield and it came cracked. So I ordered another one, and I was loading it on the trailer to go to Detroit to Cobo Hall. First time shown, just fired it up. And I was so desperate, I was going to put the cracked windshield back in it. And as we were loading it on the trailer, the guy walks in with a new windshield, and he goes, "Who wants a new windshield?" I said, "I do."
Yesterday.
So he was nice enough. Lord. He stayed around. He helped me take the old one out. We put the new one back in, loaded it directly onto the trailer, drove down to Detroit, unloaded it at Cobo Hall, and we won Best Gasser.
Wow.
At Cobo Hall. So after I had gotten the award, I'd come back to the car. And this gentleman come up to me and he goes, "You know," he says, "I knew you were going to win that award." And I said to him, I said, "Well, why did you tell me on Thursday? And I wouldn't have to wait around all weekend, eh?" And he says, "I think I should own that car." And I went, "Well, I think you should too." And he shot me an offer, and it wasn't really what I thought was right. And so I said, "Listen, I'm tired. I've been here for 4 days. I got a long drive home." I said, "I'm going to go over by the car and I'm going to catch a nap because I won't be out of here till midnight. Won't be home till 6 o'clock in the morning." So I turned, I got about 4 steps, and he bumped the offer huge. So I said, that got my interest. We had a little bit of negotiation back and forth. We came to a number, and he says, "I'll send you the money tomorrow." I said, "Great, but you can't have the car because I'm committed to the Toronto show."
Right.
So he said, "No problem, bring it back after the Toronto show." So I brought it back to Toronto, put it in a Toronto show. And they were short a car in the front, you know, the big front hall that they have. Eh? Yeah. And they said, "Would you like to put your car in the front?" Well, you got to have a big display. And I had nothing. I bought a couple of stanchions, you know, because they gave me a 3-quarter walk around.
You know how that feels.
Yeah, we know that one.
Yeah. So they said, "Well, you got to buy the carpet, and you got to buy electrical, and you got to buy," and it ended up being like $1,500. And I said, "You know what? My car is just fine right where it is." Well, it ended up, I won Best Paint, Best Nostalgia Dragster, Best Nostalgia Engine, and Best Gasser at Toronto.
Well deserved.
And I went, wow, Best Paint. You know, that was the first time I've ever won a cash award. Usually you get a trophy or a bucket of soap or Mother's or something. But, you know, to get a cash award, that was, you know, and especially best paint at Toronto with all the stuff that's high dollar. I was blown away.
Was Paul with you at the show?
Well, Paul was up with me at the show. But what I did after was I gave Paul the award because he was the one that did all
he's just known in this industry. You when you hear his name, you just, you know, right off the bat. And
I got to backtrack a little bit. Excuse me. After the paint, I got Dano, the pinstriper, in. Dano is a good friend of mine. He's done many of my cars. So Dano came in, and usually it takes him a couple hours or the better part of a day to do a pinstripe job. But he ended up 6 days on this car.
Okay, so that's why he wasn't as angry when he was doing my bike. My bike was 1 day, and he spent the whole day with me. And spending a whole day with me can be quite the job. But he did it. So 6 days.
Okay,
Go ahead.
Right. So for the people that are catching your episode and hadn't watched Dano's yet, so for our viewers, if you go back and have a look at the Dano Druin episode 2, we interviewed Dano, wonderful guy. You'll really love that episode.
He's a good friend of mine.
So this is the gentleman we're referring to. So let me get this right, Glenn. You and Paul put all this time, all this money into this car. You win awards. You're winning awards with it. And then, hang on a minute, it's not done yet.
We need to make it better.
It can be made even better.
Well, yeah, we just finished painting it, and I wanted true nostalgia, 1966 gasser style, okay? And if you know a little bit of history about the drag industry, in the beginning, in the late 50s and 60s, they were pretty basic, eh? And as they started to go, they started to get a little bit different. So they ended up with a gasser class, you know, A, B, A, you know, blowers, non-blowers, big motors, weight to... So the promoters, they started seeing guys coming out with a little bit fancier cars, a little bit more fancy with names on them.
A little more detail, a little more, yeah.
Yeah. So the promoters, you might go and you might race all day, and you win your division, and you get $100. Well, the promoters were putting $100 for the best car. So the guys were starting to come out with these wild paint jobs and names. And the promoters would then go, well, listen, you know, be there Sunday. We got the Instigator against, you know, the Green Dragon. Come be there, right? So we had to put a name on it. And we ended up with the Instigator. And Dano laid that out in variegated gold leaf and did an excellent job. And then when we were standing back, I said, Dano, I don't want to look at that car anywhere without seeing some pinstriping on it. So he went at it under the hood, on the firewall, the dash, inside the doors, on the doors,
so talented.
The roof, the trunk, inside the trunk, under the car, on the suspension. Like he was 6 days laying stripes, eh? And he was amazing. He was amazing.
So you know what? I have something. It's not even on my list here, but I need to ask. So Instigator, when you said you came up with the name, how did you come up with that name?
Well, you know what? Actually, it was my son. He had a boat, and he called it the Instigator because he's a bit of a shit disturber. And I thought, well, geez, like father, like son. And I like the name, and so I kind of scooped the Instigator from him. Okay. But over the years, I've named all of my cars. Scarred, Falcon Around, you know, just all the cars end up with a name, eh? So.
Very neat. Well, I tell you what, we're going to shoot to a commercial here for just a couple minutes, and we'll be right back with Glenn.
Great.
CARS, Canadian Automotive Restoration Specialists.
Cars by Taylor is your car concierge in Eastern Ontario and Western Quebec. Are you buying, selling, or trading? Do you need maintenance services, modification, or restoration? Maybe you just need some consultation on a project or need a vehicle moved. We're here to provide services for your collector, classic, sports, or luxury vehicle. Check out our website at carspecialist.com or call us at 613-371-4440 At Cars by Taylor, we know we're not working on just any vehicle.
C-A-R-S, Canadian Automotive Restoration Specialist.
Welcome back. We're talking with Glenn Botting today. Thanks for being with us, Glenn. Very cool, brother.
So another thing I wanted to talk about was having heard your bucket list and knowing a bit about it. I actually want to hear everything that you want to share with us, because I've never heard it from your mouth. I've heard it in our industry and through friends and, you know, little bits here and there, but I think it would be a cool thing to share because, you know, especially during COVID as well, we've had a lot of people having to stay at home, revisit different, you know, bucket lists that they want. So could you please share with us how that began and why?
Okay. Well, first of all, I generally don't build for other people. I build what I want to build, and then if people like it, they buy it. Okay. I had acquired a 1926 Model T, a tall T, doctor's coupe, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. And it was pristine. Oh my gosh. And I got to give you a quick story. I'd been chasing this car for years and years and years. It was owned by a friend of mine. And he had it upstairs in the loft of his business. And every time I went there, I always looked at the car because it was so pristine. And the story was that the car was actually a museum car for the 30s and 40s and 50s. And then the guy died, and then it ended up in another place. And he acquired it, and he had it for 10 years. Well, I actually went to a funeral of a mutual friend. And this guy that owned the car was there. And I said, Duff, that could be you. You're never going to build the car, sell it to me. And he goes, okay. We agreed on a price, and we left straight from the funeral home and bought the car, loaded it in the truck, and went home. Wow. So when I come home with the car, my wife said to me, well, I thought you were going to a funeral. And I said,
right. Your poor wife. We have to send her some flowers.
So
one good one to keep.
The car was so pristine. I didn't want to cut it, chop it, hack it. I didn't want to do anything to it. As a matter of fact, the paint was very slightly faded. I buffed it, and it came up like it was brand spanking new, 90-year-old paint, like pristine. So I built a frame, put a 302 AOD, 4-speed overdrive, coilovers, 4-link, Mustang clip. And cars have always been my hobby, not my business. So I had a business. I sold my business. I retired. And I said, you know what? I got a bucket list. Right. And I said, I got to do the bucket list. So I said to my wife, do you want to come? And she goes, well, the car is small, and I got to get my hair done. And I go, what? She said, well, how long are you going? I said, I don't know. When are you going to be back? I don't know. When I've seen everything I want to see and do everything I want to do. Wow. So she said, okay, where you go? So I loaded up the car at the 1926 Model T, and I left. And I did Michigan.
And where did you leave from?
From Brantford, Ontario, where I lived at the time. Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, Iowa, Nebraska, South Dakota, Wyoming, Idaho, Nevada, Utah, Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, and home.
Wow.
So I went everywhere on that route that I wanted to see. So my first major stop was Speedway Auto Parts in Nebraska. Okay. They have an amazing museum there. It is a bucket list trip just to go to Speedway to see their museum. Right. And while I was parked there, this young girl who does media came out and did a half-hour video on this idiot from Canada that was driving a 1926 Model T across the United States. So from there, I went.
Canadians.
No. So I went to South Dakota to the Badlands, and I stopped at the missile silos, where they had the nuclear missile. And you can go in and visit, but they won't let you touch any buttons.
I don't know why.
Then I went to Yellowstone, and I saw Old Faithful and down through Idaho. Wow. And I went to Bonnieville Salt Flats. So so you drive along and you see it. So you drive, it's about 7 miles off the highway to the end, and there's a court, and they have the timing association. They charge you to go out, right? To go out on the salt. And they have 2 tracks. One is a 3 mile lane, and the other one is the unlimited 7 mile lane for the ultimate speed. And they charge you, so when I come up to the gate, the girl says 140, and I go, $140? She goes, no, 140. And I didn't understand. I said, what's 140? And she says, are you here to do the 3 mile course for a speed of 140 miles an hour? You get a certificate. I said, sweetheart, look at this 2016. Right. It's not cut, it's not chopped. It had a windshield that was like this. And I said, no, I'm just here to sail. So I went right out onto the salt flats and toured, and that was pretty amazing, right? And stayed in Salt Lake, and then the next day went down to Colorado and climbed Pikes Peak. And I'll tell you that's always been a bucket list for me, is to see Pikes Peak. Okay? So you start at about 6,000 feet level, and you go up to 14,115 feet. And there's no guardrails. There's nothing. You just go straight up the side of this mountain. So as I'm going up, I see these skid marks, and they're all over the road. And I'm going, wow, this is dangerous. And there's skid marks all over.
Who's this idiot?
Who's this idiot? Eh? So it wasn't until I got to the top, and I was saying, there's a lot of skid marks. Did anybody die? And he goes, nah. He said, that was Ken Block doing his Pikes Peak hill climb last week. So I had just missed Kenny Block in a Hoonigan.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
Which is just awesome. That's a video.
Be there following that too, right? To feel that energy.
It was. I'll tell you, if my wife was with me, we never would have made it to the top. She would have bailed on it for
Turn
sure.
Around, go back down. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And so when I left, it was 72 degrees. And when I got to the top, there was, they had a freezing ice storm, and freezing ice was all over the signs in the building at the top. Eh?
So you experienced all kinds. I mean, all kinds of weather.
We drove through the seasons just going up the hill.
I mean, right.
Yeah. Well, I had a picture where from the top where we were actually 4,000 feet over top of the cloud list. So you were actually looking down the clouds. Eh? Yeah. That was pretty cool. That's another definite bucket list.
Right. Definitely. No doubt.
Yeah. Who gets to do
So from there, I did a chunk of Route 66, but I have done 66 all the way from Chicago to Santa Barbara. So that was a great trip, but not with this car. Oklahoma, I crossed the Mississippi to Missouri. I ended up at the Indianapolis Speedway.
Yes.
And I went in, and that was just, again, they have a museum to see. The cars that they used to race it was just phenomenal. And it's great because they have a lot of cutaway cars, and it was great for me to take little tips and little bits that I put into my cars. Eh?
Right.
So I actually they have a tour that goes around the track. And I said to the guy, listen, what would it take if for me to get my T here at the start finish line, get a picture. And he goes, well, I said, do you know who I am? And he goes, sir, it doesn't matter who you are. You're not getting your car out on this track. Eh? So didn't get it there. So we left there, and I went to Ohio, and I stopped at Summit. There's another great place. Oh my gosh. If you're a car guy, you got to go to the Summit store. The parts, or you push a grocery cart, and you just, it's craziness, eh?
And they have things I loved about living in the States.
Yeah. They have a great show in the summertime right in the parking lot, and it was just amazing. Anyways, got home little over 2 weeks later, and I think
So
it
it
was
took you 2 weeks. Interesting. Let me ask, did you have any problems with the car over the 2 weeks?
Yeah, was there any mishaps or?
not a lick mechanically.
You go, man.
But when you're out there in Nebraska and Iowa, it's really flat and really straight. So you could really open it up. And I thought, well, let's see what this thing will do. So I had the T, full body, not chopped, not anything. And I had it over 100 mile an hour down this street. And after that, I heard a, and I get out and I look all over and get in a car, drive a few more miles, and what the heck is that? I get out and I look, and here it was the original vinyl roof. Part of it had started to roll up.
Okay.
So I had to stop at the local dollar store and buy a dollar store hammer and some nails and tack the vinyl back into the original wooden strips.
Some work along the way.
Other than that, flawless. It was
the poor car's going, Glenn, I've never gone this fast, man. Give me a break. Feeling my lips.
No, I'm sure it didn't.
We're going to run to another commercial. We're going to be right back with Glenn. Glenn, this is fun. We're going to be right back, guys.
A message to owners of classic and antique cars, trucks, and motorcycles. Your Canadian source for new quality tires is Selmar Autoville in Eastern Ontario. They are the authorized Canadian agent for Universal Vintage Tires and Finland's Kontio Tires White Paw Classics. We can get what you need for your precious vehicle, dating back to the early 1900s up to the muscle car era. Check out our website at www.selmar.ca or call Fern at 613-632-6363 for a quote. Don't leave your vehicle in the garage because you need new tires. Drive your past in the present with Selmar Autoville.
And we are back with Glenn Botting. This is fun, Glenn. You know what? You know what we really have to do? I really need to see around your shop.
He's so curious to know what's behind you. That's all. He's just curious.
Well, I'll do my best to show you. Okay, help me guide the camera wherever you want to see. Okay.
You got it.
Okay, no worries.
This is a project that I just got in. It's a 1936 Chev, and somebody had put it on an S10 frame, and they had kind of put it together, but it's not really well done. So I'm going to have to massage it, make it a little bit better.
Give it some TLC.
Give it some GLC. Glenn's loving here.
Nice.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So we'll be lowering that down and maybe about 6 or 7 inches, and probably resectioning the frame and just giving it a way better look and a way better stance.
Right.
And then this over here.
I love this.
Oh,
Glenn.
yeah.
This is a 1950 white cab over that I bought in North Bay from behind a barn. And it actually cost me more to get a crane to get the cab out from behind the barn than it did to buy the truck.
So we actually know of one in the Quebec mountains.
Yeah.
And
it's been sitting there.
It's been sitting there for
It's in the middle of a bush. Yeah.
We need to go back and go see it.
Look at this.
So it took you a crane to get this out?
Yeah, I craned it out, put it on the pickup truck on the flatbed, and dragged it back. And then I bought a 2009 LCF frame, a low cab forward frame, and shortened it 8 feet. And then I've mid-mounted a 454 with a 700 R4 on it.
Why not?
I love it.
So, but that's the project that we're working on. So we have this one, and we have this one, and then
badass. I love the cab overs. And you know what, for anybody that's ever driven truck, if you've ever driven cab over, you know it's a completely different experience when you're running down the road, especially at high speed.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially at high speed.
Kind of get that feeling you can reach out and touch the road.
Yeah, you really don't want to scratch yourself because everybody will see you with the big windows up there, you know. So
I am having so much fun looking around your shop right now.
This is pretty cool because when I was at the Woodward Dream Cruise, in Detroit, it's 22 miles of Woodward Avenue, 4 lanes. They call that the Great American Cruise. 40,000 cars, 3 million people, one day.
Wow.
They actually took a picture of a 31 Chev that I had built, and then they put it on their poster, and they had strung that up all over the place. Eh?
Right.
That was pretty cool.
Wild.
Yeah.
Geez, look at that one.
Look at that one.
Yeah, that was Best Gasser. That's pretty cool. It's cam and valves and lifters, and that was a trophy that I had won for Falcon Around. Eh?
Okay. Yeah, you know what?
See,
I think we're going to be,
Falcon around.
we know Falcon Around well. And I think, Glenn, we're going to be having you back on the show again in the future. We're going to have to cover Falcon Around.
And you know
for
what
sure.
would be cool? Let's invite Dano back.
Yeah.
Let's do another interview where it's Glenn and Dano and talking about the project.
Right.
And
Can you see that picture in the box there?
No, I'm trying to, Glenn, actually. I just barely. It looks like it's in a tunnel.
Yeah, it's in a wooden box. Tell me when you can see the picture, right?
Yeah, I think we got it.
Yeah, we've got it.
Okay, that's scarred. That was actually a sedan that I cut into a pickup truck. And there's a story behind that particular car, because at the time I was very sick of everybody saying to get a car in a show, you got to spend $100,000, $200,000, and it takes years, and you can't build a show winner, and you can't do this, and you can't do that. So I bought that car for $50. I spent a total of $6,000 on it. I built the frame, the motor, I cut, and I didn't do any body work. I left all the welds so that everybody could see everything.
Right.
And it was a show winner. I mean, it won. And actually, the person that bought the Chev just purchased that.
Okay.
So she's so excited that I'm doing her car literally twice, eh? I don't know if you're getting these pictures of all these.
Most definitely. Yeah, most definitely.
So there's the Instigator.
Yeah.
And that was actually the side of Falcon Around. I took it apart when I redid it. And there's, I don't know, that's hard to see there, Falcon Around.
Yep.
Can you see that? That was a very rare 1964 Falcon sedan delivery. It was one of 817. And Dano actually did all the gold leaf on that. There's no pinstriping. Everything that was done in gold leaf.
Wow.
That was pretty cool. And this is another one. This one's called Bad Vibe. This was actually one of the very first rat rods I ever built. Kevin Sheehan owns that one. It's all on air and cut and sectioned, and that one has won many shows.
Yeah, that looks
so.
Can I say badass?
You know what? I'm gonna allow it. You know what? Normally I'm very like no.
That's neat.
But you know what? That actually deserves that.
So that's
very cool, Glenn. Thanks for showing us. You know, not everybody wants to just show you around their shop, so that's pretty cool.
So
thank you very much. You know, we're gonna head into Nicole's free throttle questions here in just a minute.
It's time for Nicole's Full Throttle.
Welcome back to Nicole's Full Throttle Questions. So we have Glenn, and I'm going to shoot you out all the questions. Let's jump right into it. So what's your favorite thing to do when you're not working, Glenn?
Well, I quit working 5 years ago. And now what I do is I just build cars in my garage. I mean, that's truly what I like to do is just build cars. Since I moved to New Brunswick 4 years ago, I think I built half a dozen cars out here.
Wow.
Awesome. So what's another talent that most people wouldn't know then? If you do you do anything on your spare time that isn't car related? Is there a talent that you really...
No, I don't have any other talents.
I'm proud to hear that, dude. This is that's the best question that anybody has ever asked me. So if you could move anywhere in the world, where would you go? Where would you want to live?
I'll tell you, I've traveled every province and every state in North America, except for Alaska, Hawaii, and Nunavut. I mean, and I got to tell you, Canada has some interesting places, but my gosh, the diversity of the United States, from the Grand Canyon to the deserts, to the mountains, to the shores, I'd have to say the US.
I miss the US too. I lived in New York and New Jersey for a little while, and I have to say I do miss the diversity. So what is your favorite car show food? If somebody saw you at a car show and they saw you standing around and they really wanted to come up and talk to you, what would they bring you?
Chili dog.
Chili dog. Awesome.
Chili dog with cheese. That's me.
That's awesome. So what would you do to treat yourself? Now we know about the bucket list, and we know that, you treated yourself to, in my opinion, one of the best gifts that one can give themselves. But what would be something that you would do to treat yourself generally?
You know what? I really lead a simple life. I don't need a lot. I'm quite happy. To treat myself would be a time for my wife and I just to get away. Ruth has been so patient with me over the years. I mean, to treat her and take her away, like on a nice trip or something, that would be a good thing for me.
Good. And you know what, if you can also thank her, because I know that most times as wives to our beautiful men in the automotive industry, we tend to be behind the scenes.
Well, that's why I said it at the beginning when we were just doing setup. We could see Ruth running around. I said, "There's always a beautiful woman behind a good man." And I know I have both socks on, so thanks, hon.
do they match though?
They do today. Like I said,
on camera, so it doesn't matter.
So, what is one of your favorite colors?
Well,
because it's hard to ask people in the automotive industry, because especially builders, I'll be honest, it's one of the hardest, or artists.
Tough one.
I'd have to say metal flake, like heavy metal, like bass boat metal flake red.
Yeah. See?
Way back when I first started painting, I was at a flea market and I bought a can of this big heavy flake, and I went, oh my God. And I've been dipping into that can for paint jobs for 25 years. And it's my fallback color too. It's my go-to color. If you want,
I'm gonna have to get Paul to send you. We did some boats just for fun at one period of our life, and I was the same way. I was really into and the heavy flake. And then when Paul brought me to the store, never mind purses and shoes, the fact that I could buy flake and make my own creation, that was everything for me.
There's a lot of work to it. I find that to be successful laying flake, especially big flake, it takes like 16 layers of clear to bury it and get a nice smooth without knocking down the top to get that too. Judy Garland, Wizard of Oz.
That's exactly what it is for me. Exactly. It's the Ruby's shoes. So if you could choose between country living or city living, which one would you choose?
Well, where I am now, I could probably fire a gun and the bullet would hit the road before I hit a neighbor. That's where I am.
Nice.
I'm so happy for you.
Are you allowed sleepovers? Because I want to come over.
I'm 500 feet from the ocean. I hear the lobster boats. It's just the scenery out here is amazing.
So different from Ontario, eh?
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. The ocean is just amazing. Yeah, and the people, they're very laid back, and fortunately, unfortunately, I live in a very French area, so I'm trying to learn the French. I've got all the.
That's Paul right now. He's trying to do courses at night, and but I mean, you're doing really good.
Thanks, hon.
You're supposed to say merci.
Oh, merci beaucoup.
Okay, bienvenue.
I know that we're approaching the end, and there's a few things that I'd really like to say, if you don't mind.
Please do. Absolutely.
I'm not a professional builder. I'm a hobbyist. And I know there's a lot of young people that are coming up and they're into their Hondas. It doesn't matter what you're into,
right? As
long as you do the best that you can. And if you can't learn, like right now, I got to tell you, people today are so fortunate with an iPhone. You have the total sum knowledge of the entire world in your hands. And if you want to learn how to do something, Google it. There's tons of people out there that will teach you, you know,
Right.
to help you. I've learned over the years that the only way to really make money on cars is to do everything. So I've had to learn to build frames and fabricate and body work and paint and engine and interior and wiring and if it's not that hard. I mean, if I can do it, literally anybody can do it.
Right.
You just take the time, learn, ask questions, which leads me to the other thing.
Right.
Over the years, because Bob Smurl had taken me under his wing to teach me, that got me going. My garage is always open. My door is always open. And over the years, I've had so many young kids come up on bicycles to the door and I go, oh my God, that stuff is so cool that you're building. Come on in.
Right.
You can't see it from
You
out there. And if they come in and they have any kind of interest, then I say, all you got to do is come around. You come around as much as you want or as little as you want to learn whatever you want. I will do my best to pass on the knowledge. And that is the key. There's so many people my age, and I'm getting up there, that have so much knowledge of building so many cars and so many different things. To pass it on, you know, just give it to these people, or it's going to be gone.
That's part of the idea of this show, really, is to help connect people.
Yeah.
And speaking of people, I'll tell you what, if you've inspired somebody just now, we've had a youngster watch you, they need to get a hold of you to say, you know what, I want to talk to Glenn.
How would they do that?
How do they get a hold of you?
Glenn, glenn.botting@gmail.com.
Perfect.
Okay.
Glenn.botting@gmail.com.
It's really cool because I find that when we first came into the industry, we actually had quite a few gentlemen bring us under their wings. Mm-hmm. And we've been asked numerous times, did you learn, everything? Well, you know what, we learned as much as we could, and we were sponges whenever we were around anybody, and we still are. Right. We're still learning. And so we tend to say, even to our apprentices, when you're going to school, don't just stop at being a body man. Don't just stop at being a mechanic. Right. Do everything you possibly can. Understand the full picture of it. Because if you do, you're that much more valuable at the end of the day. And, it's easy to just say, well, I've got my certificate. It's up on the wall. I can work. I can do this. Push yourself a little bit.
I can put the paint on the car, but I can't put it back together.
And there's been times that we've had employees, and I can think of one project specifically. I think of Clarity, and we name our project. And so we had the Westphalia, and we were doing it, and my painter at the time was just not getting it the way that I needed it to go. And I remember saying to the team, okay, we're going to go home. We're going to revisit, come back for supper. And they all thought, what are we doing coming back at supper time? No, come back at supper time, and we're going to all do this together. And so we went and got a few painters, and I think we had 3 at the time. Yep. And they were all lined up. And we were pitting each other against one another. Mm-hmm. And don't you know that as the owner of the company, I got all dressed up and I started mixing my paint and I started doing, and I was learning from them, but they were learning from me. And I think that if you, as an owner or somebody that's, coming into this, you have to be able to say, I'm okay to learn more. And I'm willing, more importantly, because there's passion behind me. So thank you so very much for that, because I think that a lot of our viewers and a lot of the young generation coming into this sometimes just need to speak to somebody and just say, what's going on.
This can be an intimidating industry to come into too, as well.
It is.
It's, if you feel like you already have to have all this knowledge coming into it and you really don't, come learn with us, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I'm so thankful that you took the time today.
Yeah, I really
appreciate everything. I have a very funny feeling that we're going to be calling you back, if you don't mind, because why don't we get Glenn on with Dano? I think that would be key. Would you be willing to come back and speak to our viewers one more time with Dano, maybe?
Absolutely. Dano is a great guy, and he's a great striper.
He really is, and a good friend, somebody who's definitely a talent.
Yeah, we need to do some falcon around.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Glenn, thank you so much for your time.
Glenn.
It's been our pleasure. Thank you so much for being on.
Please say thank you to Ruth again.
No problem. Thank you.
Take care.
Cheers, brother.
Bye.
Bye.
Talk about instigating. Now that was a good show, right?
You are killing it today with the puns.
I
mean,
that was fun.
You know what? We have to have him back on because I don't think we had enough time.
We really didn't.
And I mean, there's so many more stories that we can grab out of Glenn. Yeah. And I think that our viewers would be so interested in knowing, because we get to hear so much. And that's something that the reason why we created this podcast was some of the amazing stories we get to hear. We get to hear them.
We get to hear them.
But now we get to share them with you.
That's right.
So I am so excited that you guys tuned in. I hope that you guys will follow us on YouTube, and don't forget to follow us on Patreon.